If you're new to this channel, then I'm going to tell you a story that you haven't heard before. But for the rest of you, you'll remember. Team coaching is how I started in my coaching, which is a little backwards. If you are thinking you want to add team coaching to your portfolio, I want you to think long and hard. How confident and comfortable are you in your one-on-one coaching work? Because there are some really big differences. In fact, I think it's super important that you are at least around 300 or 400 hours of practice in your one-on-one work before you decide to step into the arena of working with 6 or 8 or 10 people together over time. Now let's talk about why. Of course, 6, 8, or 10 people, that's one to many instead of one to one. A mistake a lot of coaches make is that they think they have to listen to all 6 or 8 or 10 people. And that's actually not your client. Team coaching is about working with the pattern of interaction that is happening amongst that group of people. But you can't stop there. Team coaching is also about staying alert to the influences of the system in which those 6, 8, or 10 people are operating. That could be the city council that's operating inside of the charter of the city, that's operating inside of the rules and regulations and laws of the county, that operates within the constitution of the state and therefore in the nation. It's a big set of concentric circles and ripple effect. Lots of influences on the team, on the individual people, and on their shared purpose, which is another element. So not only is it the pattern of interactions amongst them and how it's influenced from the outside, but it's also what's brought them together. What's the shared purpose that they're bringing each individual's unique skills to that in combination can do better work than what they can do independently? Which is, of course, why organizations create teams, that there is a recognition that collaboration amongst a group of people will do better in leveraging each other's strengths and will generally bring up better solutions because you have more perspectives from which to get information and ideas. Well, therein lies the challenge for us as coaches. If you try to keep up, so 6, 8, or 10 people, you'll be exhausted and you will miss actually the sweet spot, the essence of what makes team coaching so successful. We can begin to see, like a tapestry, the 6 or 8 or 10 people are weaving a story. They are imagining how a solution might come into being before they're actually deploying it. They are learning. They are creating things that are relevant and pragmatic. That's their work. But our work is, how do they keep out of the friction zone, the places where personality gets activated, people start competing rather than collaborating? So while in one-on-one work, you are about evoking awareness for the client about what motivates them, that applies with teams, but it doesn't apply to the individual. It applies to how the interactions amongst the individuals are influencing a state of flow or a state of friction. Of course, this means getting some training is really important. And it is recognized by the ICF with the launch of the team coaching subcompetencies, which are building on top of the one-on-one competencies you got in your original training. But it's also recognizing that we have a responsibility to educate the consumers, the buyers of team coaching, particularly in organizations that are for-profit or not-for-profit, businesses that have big customer obligations, or things like I described, a government council meeting, or educational. I've had a lot of work that I've done with principals in schools to help them think about how to improve education as a societal need. So many applications for team coaching, and it is a very rewarding process, but it's not for the faint of heart. So do it with some deliberateness and be sure that you get some training to support you to be able to be with that interaction, that field of interaction and the external sources of influence and impact that team is navigating. That's not yours to resolve, but it is yours to illuminate for them to choose how they be with it. Now, There is another video here that talks a little bit more about the differences between one-on-one and one-to-many, or individual and team. And I encourage you to have a look at that. And I'll look forward to seeing you somewhere telling your story about team coaching.